Hey, honors chemists. If you were not in class or need a little bit of recap support, I'm going to show you how to do question 3 from worksheet number 3. We, at this point, have discovered that elements of different have different sizes, different masses. So atoms of different elements have different masses now. And so we're going to use these mass ratios to figure out how I'm going to draw my circles of atoms. So it says, use the hypothesis you have chosen to suggest formulas for the following pairs of compounds. So we have compounds of copper and chlorine. We have compound A that has 35 grams of Cl for every 64.1 grams of copper. We have compound B, which has 52.8 grams of Cl for every 47.2 grams of copper. Part A says, determine the value of the ratio of the mass of chlorine divided by the mass of copper in each compound. Let's do that. We'll do 35.9 grams chlorine divided by 64.1 grams copper. If I do this math with a calculator, I get 0.560 grams of chlorine for every 1 gram of copper. And I'm going to highlight these units here because these units are the same on top and bottom. So if I simplify this mass ratio, for every 1 gram of copper, there's 0.56 grams of chlorine. And if I use this mass ratio, I could clearly see that chlorine is going to be smaller than my copper. So maybe I'll say this is for chlorine and this is for copper. Because if I have this ratio, there is more copper mass than chlorine mass. So I'm going to have to draw copper bigger. Then I'll do compound B, 52.8 grams of chlorine for every 47.2 grams of copper. Now that I already know that chlorine is going to be smaller in size than copper due to this first ratio, let's see what my next ratio gives me. 52.8 divided by 47.2, I'm doing this on a calculator, I get 1.12 grams chlorine for every 1 gram of copper. Well, I've already established that for every 1 gram of copper, there's 0.56 grams of chlorine, and that is saying that chlorine must be about half the size of copper. And I'm going to write these ratios here, 0.560, 1.12. How does the mass ratio for compound B compare to that in compound A? Well, if I look at this, I have the same amount of copper, but it looks like 2 times the amount of chlorine, right? From 0.56 to 1.12, that's multiplying by 2. So I would say 2 mass ratio in B is 2 times A because of Cl. And then what are the simplest formulas for compounds A and B? Explain your reasoning. Well, both are going to have the same amount going to have same amount of copper. So I'm going to draw 1 copper here, 1 copper here. They both have the same amount. So let's just say 1. Then between A and B, B has twice the amount of chlorine. How can I write a formula or draw a particle diagram that has twice the amount or twice the mass of chlorine? Well, the simplest way I could do this is having one of them have 1 chlorine and the other one have 2 chlorines. So this would be CuCl, and this would be CuCl2. And they both have the same amount of chlorine. They both have the same amount of copper. And compound B has twice the amount of chlorine as compound A. And then I'm just going to write a note here. This is for your Unit 4 test. You will have to know how to do exactly what I just did as far as calculations. Get the mass ratio, compare the mass ratio of one to the other, and then come up with formulas. I have left question 4 for this year up to you as a little bit of extra credit. I would like you to try and show the work, but I'm going to let you know that you're going to get ratios of FECL X, FECL Y. X to Y is not 1 to 2, it's not 1 to 3. It's not going to be simplified. It's not going to be double, or it's not going to be triple. You're going to see that we're going to have a ratio of 3 chlorines to 2 chlorines between these two compounds. If that's true, what must these compounds then look like if they have the same amount of Fe, which is iron? But that's all for us here. So if you needed help with question 3, you are just turning in and completing question 3 for this year. This year is 2022, by the way. So if this is another year, I might have assigned you question 4. And that is all for us. Hopefully you are able to follow along with these calculations. If you have any other questions or concerns, let me know on the remind, email me, or you could always see me in class.